You're listening to Greater Good Radio Hawaii. Please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Today's guest is Chatt Wright, president of Hawaii Pacific University. We're learning about Mr. Wright's global vision and growing HPU's annual budget of $200,000 in 1972 to $95 million today.
Yeah, I wanted to go back a little bit. You mentioned at 29 you were offered the founding position of the Business Administration School. At 29, what type of experience did you have that attracted these people to offer such a young person?
Well, I had absolutely no experience. It was a formative college. It was getting established. I mentioned it only had a $200,000 budget. It had indebtedness of around $300,000, and so it was very difficult in those days. And as something is emerging, as it is getting established, people have to employ people that are willing to take risk, and those are oftentimes entrepreneurs who are very young. I was that. So really, Hawaii Pacific really didn't have too much to offer. It was an experience for me to begin with something new to help shape and form it.
How did you find the position, though? Did they approach you, or did you see an ad in the paper, or how did that come about?
No. There were several people in town approached me. How they knew me, I'm not even sure. But they were looking for somebody with energy to help build and establish a downtown business school.
So you graduated with your bachelor's in business?
No. As a matter of fact, I was a University of California graduate in political science, although I changed my major several times, graduated in 8 semesters. Matter of fact, my last semester I had to take 29 units to graduate. But basically, I was an engineering student. I was an enology and viticulture student. That's growing of the grape, making wine. And I had switched into various liberal arts fields, ultimately graduating in 8 semesters with a political science baccalaureate degree. I then served in the Peace Corps for 2 years in Africa. I came to Hawaii and entered graduate school at the University of Hawaii, and I was in the economics department there where I got a master's degree. They didn't offer an earned doctorate at that time in that field. But really, that's how it all happened. I worked here for Telecheck International. It was an emerging firm. I was involved in planning, strategic planning, and this was a company that was doing quite well, then had very difficult times because of the declining stock markets, and ultimately went out of business, which made me available.
And then that's when you started with HPU.
And that's when I started in 1972.
Did you ever think that you would be in education?
No, never did. It was just one of those things that interested me. And as a matter of fact, when I first took the position, I thought maybe I would do this for 1 or even 2 years. It really caught on. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I formulated a vision for an emerging college, and 4 years later I was named president. And so that's how things go.
Being offered the position of president at such a young, well, this is 4 years after you said, right? Did it strike you surprising, or?
No, not really. In 1976, I think I was a major part of the growth of Hawaii Pacific College, but it started to experience financial difficulties. And the then president, George Warmer, was a man in his mid-50s. He became ill. The college at that time was under financial duress, and so basically, and I'm joking now, but the trustees turned to me because nobody else would take a job like that. I mean, there wasn't much to really take at that time. You had a small emerging college that had a growing student body, but it had financial difficulties. And so a younger, energetic man with a vision was turned to, and that was me.
Well, let's talk about that vision. What did you see at that time that maybe others didn't?
Well, what I saw was Hawaii. It was a very new state. Hawaii is in the middle of the Pacific and the Pacific Rim. It is essentially located in the center of the Pacific Rim where the Orient meets the Occident. And I may have seen Hawaii in a little different way than other people, and maybe in similar ways of other people here. But I saw a real chance for an emerging college ultimately becoming a university that would educate for global citizenship. I saw that people would be able to come from Japan and Singapore and countries throughout Asia to Hawaii first, and then later students coming from Europe, from South America, from other places to come here and study, because this is where the Occident meets the Orient.
After, in 1976, you became the president, what was the first thing that did you set up strategy together, or how did you approach it?
Well, the first approach is when you're under financial duress, you have to raise money, you have to secure the finances of the college. And the first 2 years I spent really working with faculty and staff, making sure that we had really controlled expenses. And we had a proper budgetary system, but also probably the major job I had to do was go out and sell the concept of Hawaii Pacific and to raise money for this enterprise, because Hawaii Pacific is a not-for-profit corporation, and a lot of the funding must come from people who believe in the university's mission, at that time, the college's mission.
So are you still finding that you're spending that amount of time fundraising today?
Well, all university presidents raise money. That's a major role. Hawaii Pacific now raises from $5 to $6 million annually, and naturally, a lot of my time is getting people to be interested in the university, to invest in it, to help fund the university's growth.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.